In this short clip, we're going to be talking about the single view of change. Now, the single view of change is sometimes referred to as a heat map, an enterprise view of change, or a portfolio view of change. And in my playbook that I've created for change leads, I've defined it as a visual and single view of the planned change initiatives taking place, and often what's in the pipeline coming along as well in the organisation across time or at a given point in time. So in the work I've done, setting up change management offices and helping change leads set up a practice or a centre of excellence in their organisation, I know that one of the questions I get a lot is, my stakeholders are asking me about change saturation. Tell me more about the single view of change. So I'm Lena Ross from Change Hacks. I'm based in Melbourne, Australia. And today I'm delighted that I have Paul Clavering joining me in this conversation. Now, Paul hails from the United Kingdom and is an expert change practitioner who's played a big role in building change networks and communities throughout the globe. And since 2018, Paul has been the owner and change leader in his own company, Just Enough Change. And this was developed to help drive business change in organisations with simple to understand and use techniques and tools. And this focuses on delivery over, but not at the expense of governance. So I've been really lucky to see some of these tools, and I'm really impressed, which is why I reached out to you, Paul, so we can explore your online change tool, Change Tracker, which helps organisations manage change and improve capabilities, including helping you see that portfolio view of change, also known as single view of change. So Paul, to kick off, tell us in your own words a little bit about yourself and why you set up Just Enough Change.
Okay, thanks, Lena. Thank you for the invite. So I started off my career quite unusually in IT and very, very specific. So I was a programmer developing web pages, and then I moved into ERP applications like SAP. And so I would be the guy in the coding room who likes to pull the blinds down and, code away, and not be disturbed, and be on my own. But I quickly realized the impact that, solutions like SAP have on the wider business. So I started to become interested in change, even though I didn't know the word change management at that time. And what happened over a period of time is I then transitioned into project management. And then I really started to understand how change affects people. And for me, there was a trigger point. There was a point in the business that just said to me, this is what I want to do. So in short, in a summary, I guess, I sort of sit in the middle between sort of technology and change. So I can converse with the techie guys and we can show object-orientated design, but at the same time, I can talk to the business and let them understand the impact that would have. So I'm working with clients in things like DevOps or ERP implementations, as well as non-IT elements such as office moves or process changes. But when people ask me that question, I have one simple word. It's frustration. Why did I get into where I am? Frustration is my big key word. I was going into organizations and I was really seeing them not understanding change fatigue, hitting change saturation without realizing it was change saturation. And that was from a myriad of ways. So, they didn't have a single approach for change, for example. Each change initiative was doing change different ways. Lots of people enjoy complicating change. And that does frustrate me. There's Cotters out there, there's the Lurwins, there's the ProSite, all very, very good information. But let's be honest, the end client doesn't really care. They just want to, have a delivery land. That's and that's where we focus. And you hit my two key phrases before. Simplicity, absolutely. Simplicity. The tools have to be very simple to understand, don't need lots of explanations. And the second one, and this is a factor that we push really, really strongly, is they're user-centric. The user sits at the middle of these solutions. And what we do find is we tend to sit alongside project management. We don't necessarily get involved in project management, but we facilitate the delivery part. So in short, it took me a long time to come up with the name of the company, but I thought of everything that I've just spoke about, and just enough kept coming up. Just enough.
Nice. Yeah, like right sizing everything.
Yeah.
Paul, when people come to you, with just enough change to look at your solutions or what are their pain points? Like, what are they trying to achieve?
Great question. So I think, so one of the pain points that we see on a frequent basis is absolutely, they don't understand where they are on the change journey. And that's at two levels. That's the change journey for an individual element, but it's also this single view of change. Lots of organizations that we see actually do change management, but they miss that top level. So the portfolio view, if you like. And they tend to, and I'm generalizing here, but they tend to sort of look at allowing the individual change managers to run, their change initiatives their own way, and then trying to pull all that up together. And if you think about change saturation, and we think about one area of the business, and how much we're communicating, how much are we asking them to learn, how much are we asking them to change? If you look at that as an individual change initiative, that's only one part of the picture. So the biggest drive that we absolutely get is, tell me where we are on the change journey, and tell me where change saturation is going to happen before it turns into change fatigue.
Okay. Yeah. Where's that tipping point, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. And who typically reaches out to you? Is it a change practitioner, a change lead, or a more senior stakeholder, or a project manager?
It's been quite surprising. We've had three main people contact us. And the first one is PMO. PMO traditionally, run the delivery elements. And as change is becoming more, or people are becoming more aware of change management, they're being tasked with the PMO department. And we know that, PMO are very good at doing the delivery side of things, but change is a different skill set. So we wanted to create a solution, again, focusing on that simplicity that sort of integrates with delivery, but had its own element. So PMO were quite a strong audience for us. The second audience is, as you correctly say, is your quite senior people, transition directors, transformation directors. And these individuals, they're generally being asked by other senior people, where are we on this journey? When are we going to see these benefits? That sort of question. So again, it's about being able to generate that information. And the last one has been an audience that we just did not think about. And that's people being affected by the change. So these are your individual people within the organization who are suffering change fatigue, change saturation, and they're reaching out and basically saying, could you have a chat with our organization, please? Sometimes that can be anonymously, but it's a nice way to get into an organization to say, your people are suffering with the change saturation. So yeah, so it tends to mix, but the majority is probably through PMO.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wouldn't have expected the change receivers to reach out. It's usually the change initiators trying to improve their change maturity and things like that. So that's a really interesting perspective. And then when they get into that single view of change with the data points that they're able to extract, what sort of things are they doing with the data? Like, are they using it in a good way, do you think, or how are they using it?
They're using it to drive clarity first, which obviously makes sense. It's quite challenging to have, you are 37% of the way through your change. Okay, there's a lot of metrics and KPIs that need to sit behind to sort of generate that information. But some clients that we have are using it to try and drive additional resources, maybe. But one particular client is using it to focus their efforts. So we offer something called the apathy tracker, which, as part of the tool, allows you to see pockets in your organization that are probably more resistant to the change than other areas. So they're using this data to be able to then say, well, look, we need to really focus our efforts in this particular area.
Yeah. And to what extent, Paul, would they be using, say, the data in the single view, like a portfolio view? Are they actually slowing down change or rescheduling change that's within their control?
Yes, definitely something we're starting to see. So having this information allows, as I mentioned earlier on, allows you to sort of focus in different areas. And what we generally find is resistors are resisting across the piece rather than one particular. It does happen, but rather than resisting one particular initiative, they may resist everything. So what the data can do is allow the change manager to really go in and focus on that area, and that inevitably leads to changes in prioritization, refocusing. But one of the benefits that we didn't see is we always talk about change resistance, but we also have change influencers, for want of a better word, in other areas. And what we found is the tool highlights that. So actually, you could take a change influencer for one area of the business, not me as an individual, but somebody within the business, and they can sit with the change resistors. And that creates this self-learning organism, if you like, that basically they can communicate with each other and they can understand. But and as I said, that sort of filters up to the portfolio level.
Yeah, that's really powerful, isn't it? Because sometimes those influencers aren't who you think. They're not necessarily people, with positional power. They just have really good personal influencing. So it's great that it can do that. And
I think social media has been really good, to highlight the power of an influencer. Somebody who can, and it's exactly the same approach. Somebody who can put their name to a product or can put their name to a change, and they've got serious influence within the business.
Yeah.
So what we tend to work on a sliding scale from change influencers to change terrorists, and you probably sit somewhere in between.
Yeah.
But the concept is the same, and what we've tried to do with the tool is we've realised, that the tool will not change the organisation. The tool will just facilitate good practices within the business.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And by providing good data, I guess it's a great basis for conversations. But that is a good point, because a lot of people in change think that a magic wand will actually do things for them, but really you just need good data points to drive a really meaningful conversation. So when you see this work really well in organisations, what would you say some of the success factors are, or what would your hot tips be to people starting to use like a tool like Change Tracker?
I think the first I think the first tool definitely, or the first tip we would definitely give is that is practice what we preach. So basically, we're trying to change people to perform habits. And actually using the change tracker, that's no different. It's you put good data in, you'll get good data out. So basically, embedding the solution in the organization is a massive point for us. And what we've tried to do with the solution is we've tried to remove the perceived emphasis that the change manager does the change, and we've tried to open this out. So we've tried to redefine stakeholders, and we have enhanced stakeholders as an example. And an enhanced stakeholder could be somebody senior in finance. They would then use particular parts of the tool to help drive the change. So one of the tips is don't keep change to change management in the change team. Change should be across the whole business.
Yeah, it sounds like the tool facilitates that too, which is great. And who is usually who is the person usually who's putting the data in? Is it assigned like to one or two owners within the organisation? What's a good success kind of tip there, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So at this point, I should say that the tool is relatively new. It's in fact, COVID is older than the tool. That shows you how young the tool is. And currently, we have designated people to be able to enter the data. So, change manager, somebody else. However, we have had some feedback from a couple of clients that they would like to open it out so people can capture changes in their day-to-day job. So we're developing an app that will run alongside the solution that will basically allow people to say, well, this is going to change in this example. And that facilitates a conversation later on to see whether that's a change impact or something else that needs to be addressed. So it depends, but we've tried to keep it really simple. So actually anybody could use it. We generally do a demo of an end-to-end of the product in about 45 minutes, which is quite a powerful solution.
Oh, yeah. And I've seen it's very, very visual data that they're seeing. So it's very easy to talk to and to drive those conversations.
I agree. And we've had one client who's reported it saves them about 10% of the time because the data's in one place, it's unified, it can be rolled up. So, gone are the days of searching for Excel and opening Excel and is this the latest version or is there a later version? I'll check my email. The data's there, and it's also, as you would expect with any cloud-based solution, it's dynamic. So as soon as I enter something, you can see it, vice versa.
That is very powerful to have that real-time data. Absolutely. Now, Paul, how might our viewers on this, I'm going to call it a webcast because it's like a podcast, but we can see each other and we're showing images as we're going along as well. How might our viewers find you to find out more about this great tool and to find out more about single view of change with your stuff?
Okay. The first one is probably the LinkedIn page. So on LinkedIn, if you just do a search for Just Enough Change, the product's called the Change Tracker. So thank you for that. You can go to the website, which is www.justenoughchange.com. Or you can reach out directly to me at paul@justenoughchange.com.
That is perfect. Okay, well, I've learned even more about the tool now because I had really specific questions to ask you, and really want to thank you for your time. And I know a lot of people are going to get value about finding out what this pain point of theirs is, a little bit more about what it means and how they can bring data to life to help them have those conversations with their stakeholders. So I want to say a big thank you, Paul, for your time.